The solution to this example, first thing we need to do is we need to add on these robots. So I'm going to highlight that, go to Home, Conditional Formatting, go to the icon sets, and it looks like we want to switch these on. When I switch them on, you'll see that kind of works, but notice that the 6 is different and the 11, 12 is different. This is because Excel has decided what should turn red, green, and yellow. And here is what we actually want to happen. So we want it to turn red if it's less than 40% or 4. So we need to go to Conditional Formatting, Manage Rules. I'm going to say Edit Rules. And what you'll see here is the way it's set up is at the moment, by default, it's looking at the percentage and it's saying it'll be green when the value is bigger than or equal to 67%. We're told here that it must be green if it's bigger than 80%. Now it's important to realize what this is doing is it's looking at the biggest number and the smallest number, looking at that range, and then saying that it'll be green when the value is in the biggest 80% of that range. So I need to change that to 80. It must be yellow if it's between 40 and 80. So you'll see as soon as I click here, it says yellow when it's less than 80 and bigger than and equal to. We need to put 40 here. And it'll turn red when it's less than 40, which is what we want. So when I say OK and apply, you'll see it now matches up to our solution. Now we are asked, similar thing, we're now going to put on ticks, crosses, and exclamation marks. Now it's going to be red if the actual number is less than 3, yellow if between 3 and 13, green if bigger than 13. First step, it's easier to go to Conditional Formatting and just use the wizard. We're going to use the ticks and crosses. When I put it on, you'll see it's vastly different. So we go Conditional Formatting, Manage Rule. Let's see what Excel has used. So Excel is using the percentages here. And what this is doing is looking at the smallest and the biggest. So it's using the top 67% of this range to be a tick. We're going to change this because we now know that it must be green if it's bigger than 13. So I need to change that to be a number, and it must be bigger than the number 13. It must be yellow or an exclamation mark when it's between 3 and 13. So firstly I need to change that percent to a number, and now we know it must be less than 13 and bigger than or equal to 3. And you'll see it'll then be a cross when less than 3. When we say OK and apply, so you'll see here we're slightly different, so those seem to be correct, but can you see that the ticks on the 13, which is not quite what we wanted? So let's correct that. We go back to Manage Rules, Edit. So we need to tell it not when it's bigger than and equal to 13, but bigger than 13. Now you'll see it does it correctly. So now we've matched that setup. In the next example, now we want downward red arrow, upward green arrow, but it must be based on whatever's in this cell here. So the first part, we highlight that, we go to Home, Conditional Format, go to the icons. Now the closest one to that looks like this one here. You'll notice it's got the yellow sideways arrow. We're going to use that for now. So we've got that, but at the moment it's doing its own thing. Let's go see what it's doing. So you'll see it's using the percentages, so looking at the biggest and smallest numbers and doing the percentage of method. We need to change both those either to be a number or formula. So the value here, we're going to say it must be green when the value is bigger than or equal to whatever's in there. For the yellow, we actually wanted to ignore it. So what we'll do is we're going to refer to that cell. So what we're saying is be bigger than, so be green if you bigger than or equal to that. That's the first thing it tries. If that is correct, it'll turn green. It then comes here and it says when the formula is less than or bigger than, and it's exactly the same number. So it'll never use this yellow. And then you've got when it's less than. So when I say OK and apply, you'll see now that correctly puts the colors on that we want.